Thank you for tuning into this episode of Walden Art. Today, I'm going to show you this Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men Artist Edition. Look how large and amazing this book is. A little bit about me. I'm a comic book artist from Marvel in DC. I've done work for many publishers, including Image Comics, Dark Horse Comics, Disney, and numerous others. So check out my website, waldenwallart.com. And if you enjoy these videos, think about supporting me over on my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/waldenwallart. Over there, there's different tiers that I have that you can show support. I also have a mentorship tier, so if you're into that, showing me some of your artwork and I critique your videos, check those out as well. So without further ado, this is Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men Artist Edition. This one won't be so much of a reveal. It's more about my personal relationship with my mentor, Paul Smith. So here we go. All right, this is the Paul Smith Artist Edition. Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men Artist Edition. So this is the box that it came with. Here is the UPC code if you want to take a look at that. If this is available on Amazon, check out my links underneath the video description. Anything you order, if you want to order your own, anything you order underneath my video descriptions in my link, I get a little bit of kickback that helps me make these videos for you. So this is just a general box. I'm going to open this up. My first time looking at this, and while I'm looking at this, I'm going to tell you a story about how I worked with Paul Smith, how Paul Smith got me my first work for both Marvel and DC. So as I'm showing you this, feel free to pause the video so you can look at the artwork, enjoy the artwork. Here's a front image. This is such a beautiful, iconic image. Here's the spine. Let me open this up so we can look at this. I haven't looked at this. I'm going to be looking at this with you, along with you. Okay. And remove this cellophane. Okay, and then here's the back. Paul Smith, Paul Smith. I call him Smitty. He prefers to be called Smitty. I guess I can call him. I still have his phone number, have his email, but we don't really call each other that often. But here's the front cover, Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men. Okay, spot gloss on the words here, but not on the characters. But then the logos, spot gloss. The top, nothing special at the top. This side, the bottom, nothing special. The back, okay. Here's Paul's name. Okay, publisher IDW. Here's the spine. Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men, IDW. And comparing this to a regular size comic book, here's a trade paperback that's a regular size, so it's quite large. Okay, so right next to each other. So you're gonna need a big bookshelf to put this on. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at this book. First off, inside front cover. Inside front cover, this is the part where Wolverine pokes like Silver Samurai, I believe. Inside back cover is, let's see what's on the inside back cover. Let's see. The other side. Oh, okay. So there's Rogue. And let's see how the spine holds up. There's the spine. Those of you who want to see it. Looks like it's starting to rip already. Of course, that always happens. Let's take a look at the bottom of the spine. Okay, bottom of the spine. So it's kind of like falling apart on this side already. Okay, but it's okay. It's bound to happen on these books. So here it is. Okay, so story time. So this is of all the artist editions that I've been waiting for. This is the one that I've been waiting for. Okay, Paul Smith. I love that guy. Okay, not love as in like a loving way, because I'm married with kids. But then love as in like this artist. I pretty much owe my whole career, my whole comic book career. Paul Smith and Kenny X-Men Artist Edition. So we're gonna look at a few. We're gonna get it started first. Okay, before I talk about my story with Paul, you're gonna love this video. Okay, you're gonna love the story that I have behind here. Feel free to pause the video, zoom in. I'm shooting this in 4K resolution, so you feel free to upgrade to the highest resolution on your YouTube video. Okay, where's Wolverine? Special thanks, Paul Smith. So these are some of the people that had some of the artwork that was scanned by Scott Dembier. Scott Dembier usually goes to convention and get people to scan the artwork, or people who has it, they'll scan it and send it to them. And usually people that own the artwork that scan it to them, IDW will send them like a free book. Okay, so here's some of the insights. Okay, here's the table of contents. All art by Paul Smith unless otherwise noted. And then we have a foreword by Louise Simonson. Louise Simonson is Walter Simonson's wife. Louise used to be editor, and Walt Simonson is a penciler artist. Okay. And we have about this edition. Paul Smith, the Uncanny X-Men Artist Edition, is part of the ongoing series that dedicates to showcasing extraordinary artists in a format as special as the work deserves. Okay, so here's some of the covers. And we're gonna get this started. Let me take this and put it back over here, raise up the book. All right, look at this beautiful, beautiful work that Paul did. Okay, so when I started reading comics, like I didn't even pay attention to who, on the credits page. I didn't pay attention to that. All I read comic books was for the characters. And growing up, I was looking at Paul's work and not even knowing that Paul worked on this. Did Paul ink this by himself? Let me see. Paul Smith, Bob Wiatek. So I know Paul doesn't sell a lot of his original artwork. He keeps a lot of it. It wasn't until Paul Smith started working on a book called Leave It to Chance that I started getting to know his name. I bought a lot of his books before, but again, I didn't really pay attention to artist names or writers' name growing up. I didn't start paying attention to any artists, writers, or any of the credit from people until I started working in comics. So when Paul was working on this book called Leave It to Chance, that Image Comics was publishing, it was published under Wildstorm. He had a tour, and during the tour, there was a convention in WonderCon where he was promoting his book, Leave It to Chance. And this is the first time, like maybe the first year, I started wanting to be a comic book artist. And I have my portfolio around. I brought my portfolio, and I would just bring it to publishers, ask them to look at it, see what they think, hoping that maybe, if my work is good enough, that they will hire me. So I remember going to booth and meeting artists, and then they would just look at some of my work and say, "Oh, this is pretty good. Oh, you need to work on this," and they'll give me tips. Such an iconic cover over here. Okay, and at the time, Paul had a presentation, so I went up there, to listen to his panel. And then when it was done, he was walking off stage, and then I decided to approach him, and a couple of my friends with me, and then, we were just hanging around, and I had my portfolio. So I asked Paul, "Hey, Paul, can you look at my portfolio?" So he opened up like one page, like this, one page, took a look at it. He goes, good. He looked up, and then he turned over to like another page, like the second page, and then looked at it. Oh, this is such an iconic image over here. This is so nice. And he looked at it, and then immediately he took my portfolio and he just shut it, shut the whole portfolio. He goes, "Come with me." And then I said, "Uh-oh. What's going on? Come with me." I didn't know why he said this is an iconic image too. Professor Expert is in charge. He said, "Come with me." So he took my portfolio. We walked down. So while we were walking from the second floor where the panel was to the first floor, we took the elevator, and he was saying a few things. "Oh, what are you doing? Why do you want to work in comic books?" It was kind of like interview would be. So I thought he was just taking me to his booth downstairs in WonderCon. And then he maybe sit down and have instead of like standing on the hallway upstairs outside where people were walking around, he would just like bring me to his booth, and we would talk more. I remember because when he was standing there, he was giving people's autograph, and people were taking pictures with him. So I followed him, but instead of being taken to his booth, he brought my portfolio to everybody he knew at WonderCon. He brought my portfolio to this talent art department called Starreach, where they would hire artists and then have them kind of like almost like a agency where they help the artists find work and then show, get the work from Marvel, DC, and then they take a cut out of it, and then that's how the artist can work. So I showed it to two people. I remember showing to, I think it was Mike Friedrich. He was also one of the Starreach before I met Paul upstairs. And he said, "Oh, we don't really represent inkers. We don't represent writers and pencilers. So good luck like that." And then Paul showed my work to another girl that was at Starreach. And Starreach, that's pretty good, Walden. That's a real high recommendation from someone such as Paul Smith saying that your work is good. But unfortunately, we don't really represent inkers or anything like that. So, I kind of got an understanding that Starreach didn't represent inkers. So Paul took me to a few more of his friends, and then feel like almost everyone that I knew Paul was working on Leave It to Chance, and I didn't know he was such a big, super iconic artist at the time. I read I bought all his book. I didn't know that was him. Like X-Men Alpha Flight, and then X-Men stuff that you see here. Again, it was no Leave It to Chance that I started to know his name. So everyone he introduced me to, when Paul left, he would say, "Paul, show your work to this person." And Paul, "Hey, you got to hire this guy. Look at his inks." And Walden, once you're done looking at him, come back to my booth. So I would do that. And once I would go back to his booth, he would bring me to someone else. Like he just introduced my work to as many people that he knew. And then everyone that looked at my work said, "Wow, that's quite a recommendation, especially if we get it from Paul. So that means your stuff is pretty good." So it wasn't until the last person that Paul introduced me to. His name was Bob Harris. He was someone that was in Marvel Comics. Again, I did not know who he was at the time, Bob Harris. But then Paul goes, "Hey, Bob, this is check out this guy's work. You really need to hire him," like that. So Bob Harris was looking over my work with Paul. They were looking at it together, and then Paul had to leave, and then Bob, again, he said, "Wow, that's quite a recommendation. If it's from Paul, that means your stuff is really good. Here's my business card." So Bob Harris gave me his business card. And on his business card, it says Marvel Comics Editor-in-Chief at Marvel Comics. Okay. He said, "Give me a call in a week, and then we'll see what we can do." Okay. So I said, "Okay." So I went home eagerly, and then it was the first time I had a business card that had like Spider-Man on it, and then like, wow, like a Spider-Man business card from Marvel Comics. Just that alone, I was pretty excited just to have. And a week later, I decided I'm going to call this guy who asked me to call him. He's the editor-in-chief, and I started learning more about names. So I called him and I said, "Hey, hi, Paul. This is Walden. I don't know if you remember me. I'm the guy from WonderCon that Paul Smith was recommending." And then at the time, I remember when I met him, I also had like sample packets that I gave to them. The sample packets are photocopies of the pencils and inks that I've worked over. So the people that was looking at my stuff, they would see how the pencils look, and they would see how the inks look at the time. So I called Bob Harris, and Bob actually said, "Hey, Walden, you called me at exactly the right time." Okay, and I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" "We need someone to help us on a book called X-Force. And I'm going to give you to Jason Liebig, who's right here in the office with me. He's the editor of that book. And they need someone to help out." And I said, "Sure." So he passed the phone. We actually talked on the phone. I called him, and he passed the phone to Jason Liebig. Jason, if you look him up on social media, Jason he does like videos for Food Channel. He's like a celebrity now. He does like a famous candy packaging. He collects candy, historian, stuff like that. Anyway, at the time, he was the editor, and he asked me to, "Hey, Walden, do you have time to ink a few pages over X-Force on pencil Adam Polina?" And I said, "Sure." So I got to work, I got to work, and then original art was sent to me. And I was like, shoot, I don't like, how do I do this? I don't like, this is for real. Like a year of practicing, all of a sudden I got work, all thanks to Paul showing my work to Marvel Comics editor-in-chief. And it got me my first X-Men work. So it wasn't for Paul, I wouldn't have gotten that work. So that was my first Marvel work. And then after that, I kept in touch with Paul. Paul called me. He called me. I didn't call him for follow up on it. He called me. He took my, he took one of my sample packs and had my phone number and everything. He goes, "Hey, did you call Bob Harris?" He goes, "Yeah, I did. Can't believe what happened. They actually hired me to do like a couple of pages on X-Force." And then Paul goes, "Oh, keep at it. Maybe you'll get more work." And just what happens when I was doing stuff for X-Force, look how nice this is. Some white out over here. When I was doing stuff for X-Force, the Marvel department started sharing my name within the X-Men group. So I found out that there was the X-Men editorial group, the Avengers editorial group, New Warriors and all that. So I was working for the Marvel X-Men group. So I was doing X-Men stuff. I was doing X-Force stuff. There was all the Marvel stuff. And then later on, my name was passed over to Tom Brevoort, who started doing the Avengers stuff. So I was doing also Avengers book at the time. And that also landed me my first regular gig, which was New Warriors. New Warriors was, I guess, part of the Avengers at the time. These pages are so nice. This is the fight with Silver Samurai. This page here, page 14 and page 15, these two pages, one of these days, I want to like ink these two pages on my own, maybe make blue lines and ink it. Anyway, so I was doing a lot of Marvel work in these works. So that's how I started working for Marvel. It's because of Paul Smith. And that recommendation got me a lot of work. And then as I was doing work, I was still sending samples to like different editors at Marvel at the time. And so I was really, really busy with Marvel. So Paul called me and asked me how I was doing. Very nice storms. So this mohawk was invented by Paul Smith, stories that he told me. So when I was doing Marvel stuff, Paul called me and, we talked a bit, and then he would teach me how to ink, because at the time, all I knew how to ink was with a crow quill. A crow quill is something like this. This is a crow quill that you would just dip into a bottle of ink, and then you would just ink it. I only knew how to use this. I didn't know how to use anything like a brush. So Paul said, you should really learn how to use a brush instead of using a quill all the time. So with the brush, he would always say, use the force, go with the flow, use the force. I didn't know what he meant. Like, he said, Walden, when you're ink, I noticed that your work, everything is so meticulous, it's so detailed, so perfect. I want you to loosen up and relax. So over a course of maybe a year or two, he was mentoring me, Paul, and he was showing me how to use a brush, like just a regular brush, nothing special. At Winsor Newton, he would send me a Winsor Newton number 2, just so I can practice with it. He really wanted me to get good with my work. Okay, and at the time, there was no internet. Probably dating myself with this, but we used fax machines in order to send images to each other. He asked me, "Hey, Walden, do you have a fax machine?" I did not have a fax machine. I did not have a fax machine. He'll go get one. Go get a fax machine, and then I'll send you images of my work. So I got a fax machine and plugged it into my landline, and then put that roll of paper in there, and then he would call me, and he would fax me images. Blip, 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 blip. That's how slow that roll of paper would come out. Bloop, 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 bloop. So he would send me images of how he inks work. Okay, and then after he would go, "Hey, Walden, did you get the image? Did you get the image? Call me back if you got it. If you got it." And then he would look at that image. I would look at the fax printout, and then he would say, "Do you look over here? You see how I did this?" So I would push down, would do this, and then he kept at it. He showed me like a whole process, like a step-by-step process of how he inked. He didn't live in San Francisco. I think he lived in somewhere in California, but then he was teaching me virtually through a fax machine and on the phone. So he taught me a lot of that. And then later on, he called me and said, hey, Walden, I got this DC project. Would you like to work with me? And I said, oh, yeah. Well, what is it? I'm doing this trading card, JSA, Justice Society of America. This is the trading card that's like on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And I'm going to pencil it. And then I want you to ink it. So this will be your first DC work. I want to be the person that helps you get your first Marvel work and your first DC work. So I said, oh yeah, cool. So I remember DC Comics sent me this contract, which was like a 11 by it was 11 by 17 page. Yeah, no. It was 8.5 by 14 contract. It had like carbon sheets. There was a white sheet and a blue sheet and a pink sheet. So if you sign your name, it goes through all three of the sheets. And I remember getting that. And then once I got that in the mail, I remember going to a dental office and I read every line on the page. It's the first contract I ever seen. Marvel Comics didn't really have a contract at the time. We would just sign it and we would just do the work and just tell them they would establish a page rate for me and then I would just do the work. Doing the work, they would say, how about this page rate? Is this good? And I go, oh yeah, it's good. Or you can negotiate. But DC kind of had a rate. And then I remember seeing the contract and I was so excited just to read the contract. And then it was like a contract. There was so much word, non-disclosure and all that stuff. And then I just read it word for word. Given I didn't even know what everything I was reading at the time, but it was exciting just to read it. I remember going to a dental office, sitting there waiting and just reading it word for word. And I felt so proud just to read the contract. So once I signed the contract, I started working with Paul on just this one page. Oh, this is from X-Men Alpha Flight. This is one of the covers right over here. Okay, Jim Shooter signed off on it. Okay, go here. We continue looking at this. So after I signed the contract, I sent it in. And then Paul FedExed me this little small envelope with the artwork, and I got it. And I go, Paul, how do you like me to approach this? And then Paul goes, I want you to ink it. So I started inking it, and again, I was using a quill. The same quill that I was showing you earlier, the one that you dip into ink. Okay, so after I was done inking it, Paul said, Walden, your stuff still looks so meticulous. It looks like you took forever to ink it. I want you to ink it with a brush. I said, I'm not that good with a brush. I'm used to using a quill. He goes, use the force. I'm going to show you how. Again, we went back to the fax machine method. And then he took that same, I guess he had a photocopy of that Justice Society of, JSA, Justice Society of America pencil piece that he sent me. And he started inking one character at a time. There was Bobcat. There was like all these other characters. Before I make this, I'm going to show you. That image is right, like I'm going to put that image like right over here or something. So that image, one by one, I asked him, is inked this way? So I would ink it my way, and then he would ink it his way. He was teaching me how to ink every character of that piece. So after he was done teaching me, he basically inked the whole page. So when it was done, I asked Paul, hey, Paul, you've actually inked this whole thing. Why not just send your inks over to DC Comics and then leave me out of the equation? Like, I don't really need to ink it because you inked it all yourself. And then you know what he said to me? He said, I don't need to ink this. I want you to ink it so you get the credit, so you get to get your feet in the door. He was genuinely helping me get the work at DC Comics. So I was like, really touched, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try again and re-ink everything with a brush. He started sending me pieces of artwork that he inked, like an ear or like a hand or something, the actual artwork. So he would FedEx me stuff. Like it wasn't even artwork. It wasn't even work stuff. He would just FedExing me stuff to help me along the way, and I would look at it like the actual piece and learn how to work. So that just as JSA piece, I asked him, like when I was done, like once I was done, I asked Paul, I was like, Paul, why are you helping me so much? Like, why are you doing so much for me? I mean, Marvel Comics, you got me, introduced me to the right people, and I got work. And then before I talk about that, he also contacted me later to do another trading pinup actually for Marvel Comic of Calustro from the X-Men. So we did that together as well. Okay, so that's all always like that's also a handful of stuff. So I got to ink him on a trading card for DC. Got to ink him on a pinup for Marvel Comics. He got me my first Marvel work. Got me my first DC work, and that was pretty good, right? So later on, I asked him, Paul, why are you doing so much for me? And then he said to me, oh, because when I was starting out, there was another artist. I think it was like Dick Giordano or something that he mentioned. If Paul, if you're watching this video, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember talking to you on the phone, and then I said, "Why are you doing all this for me?" And then you said specifically, "Oh, because when I was." Wet behind the ears, green behind the ears, or whatever that you said, you needed help, and there was an artist that will help you, and that artist told you that. If you ever make it, I want you to pass on what you know to other artists, and you can help them. That is why I'm helping you, Walden. So I was like, oh, wow, I'm very lucky that you're doing this for me. X-Men Alpha Flight. So I still remember that. I still remember him always saying to me, use the force. Don't go so meticulous. Don't noodle with everything in. Relax, use a brush, and then just use the force and just relax, okay? Line weights, thick lines, thin lines. So that was that, right? And then a few years later, Paul contacted me again. Hey, Walden, I'm going to be working on The Spirit for DC Comics. It's going to be a regular series. Would you like to ink me on that series? And I go, what? Ink you on a regular series? Of course, hell yeah, of course. So I started working with Paul on The Spirit. So if you look up DC Comics The Spirit, you Google up Walden Wong and Paul Smith and Walden Wong, you'll see some of our work. And we also got to booth at a convention together. So that was very nice to see Paul again. And it was like full circle, kind of where he was there to help me out, help me get my foot in the door for both Marvel and DC. And I also got to work with him on a trading card, a pinup, just to like something started. So I know he was thinking about me to help me through to do more work. And then he got me the regular inking assignment. Okay. He knows who I am. And I told him one time, I said, Paul, remember what you did for me, how you're helping me because another artist helped you. So I got my foot in the door, and then now I'm doing what that artist did for you and what you did for me. And the way I'm doing it is I'm using the internet to spread what I know to everyone that watches my video or looks at my social media. I put out a lot of instructional videos or tutorials or critiques, so hopefully everyone can learn from me. With the internet these days and with social media, I can reach more people and help them more along the way. So hopefully, Paul, you're proud of all that I'm doing right now after what you've done for me. And I do hope that I'm able to share and spread some of the art skills and be helpful to a lot of people that comes to the industry after me. So thank you very much, Paul. This video is dedicated to you. So I hope you enjoy this video, Paul. And I'm gonna film this and love you very much, man. So I'm approaching to the end of the art book here, just a few more pages. We're gonna take a look. So some of these had glue stick lettering over here, so these fell off. And these was like a scan from the scan. So this is Paul's lettering. I recognize his work. I recognize his lettering. I recognize his penmanship. Okay, Swordsman. Again, feel free to pause the video. Sometimes he has sketches. So I know Paul, the way he draws now. Back then he would draw in blue line pencils, but when I was working with him on The Spirit, he would draw like in thumbnail first on a computer, and he would print on the back of the board in red. I asked him, why red? Why do you print in red? And then he said to me, oh, the reason I print in red is because the blue ink always disappears first, but the red ink isn't used that much. So I print in red, I use more of that ink. And then after we print the red on the back, he would light box it and pencil on the front. That's the way Paul does stuff now. So there's some red now over here, red pencil. and then he would just draw some doodle stuff on the side. Yeah, I think Paul, there's something comfortable about, like, when I see Paul's work, I feel like it brings me back to when I first met him and the time that he mentored me and helped me along the way. And then now, I would say I would use the brush maybe 90% or 85% of my work these days is all brush work. And I do relax and I use the force, like you say, Paul. So there's this, and there's more Dragon X-Men XMFC. There's no shadows here. There's more of this work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. So this was more of a personal video, so I hope you guys enjoy the story behind this. Yeah, so Paul is an artist that I really admire a lot. Thanks to him, he gave me my career in comics for Marvel and DC, and also for being able to use a brush and be confident about using a brush. He taught me how to use a brush like a regular brush, and then I discovered these brushes, these Pentel pocket brushes. And then I remember using this brush for a long time. No one in the industry was using it. I looked up YouTube, no one was using it. And then I started making videos where I was using these Pentel Aquash brushes. And then people were asking me, like, what are you using? What is that? I said, that's the brush. But instead of filling the barrel with ink, I would just dip the brush as if it was a regular brush. And a lot of people were asking me, like, what is that? I say, like, it's just a disposable brush for traveling. And then people ask me, do you feel it? I said, I don't feel it. I just use it as a brush because it's a nylon brush. Instead of like taking care of the Winsor Newton shampooing, paying $25 brush, these brushes are only like $5. When it falls apart, I just throw it away. I don't even clean it. I just dip it, use it, and then when I'm done, I just put it away. And when I use it again, I just crack the brush open again, and then start dipping it in ink and started using it again. So I was one of the first artists that started using these, and then it spread through the industry, and then all of a sudden everyone else is using it. They either hear it from me or they heard it from another artist that they either heard it from another artist that heard it from another artist that saw my videos or heard it from me that I use this. So but before people were using this, I used this for like 7 years in inking. And it wasn't until I started making YouTube videos, me using this, that almost a lot of inkers or pencilers that we use inking, that we use this brush. So I'm glad that helped. So any of you who are using these brushes, hopefully this is me passing my knowledge down to you directly or through someone else who heard it from me. Okay, so here's Smitty's words. I'm gonna hold this up, okay? I'm gonna read this because I admire Paul Smith so much. Paul Smith was born in Kansas City, Missouri in September of 1953. His father was in the U.S. Navy's naval aviator, and he and his family moved several times during his childhood. As a young comics fan, Paul admired the work of Steve Ditko on The Amazing Spider-Man and Neil Adams on Batman. Aside from a course on airbrushing, Smith had no formal artist training. In 1977, Smith began work as an animator on Ralph Bakski's adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, as well as Bakski's American Pop. Right over here. Smith came to the attention of Marvel Comics in the early 1980s. His first published work was in Marvel Fanfare #1. I have that. I didn't even know he worked on that until this. Featuring a short Daredevil story, and then an X-Men and Kazar tale in Marvel Fanfare 4. I have that one too. The concluding chapter of 4-part saga previously illustrated by Michael Walden and Dave Cockrum. This was followed by an issue of Doctor Strange retelling the character's origin. Soon after, Smith was assigned as a regular artist on Uncanny X-Men, Marvel's top-selling title at the time. Smith drew 10 issues, collaborating with noted writer Chris Claremont in what is regarded as one of the best and most fondly remembered X-Men runs ever. After departing Uncanny X-Men, Smith returned to Doctor Strange for an additional 7 issues. Smith then went to draw, again collaborating with Claremont, the X-Men Alpha Light in his celebrated oversized 2-issue limited series and a brief stunt on X-Factor. Additionally, Smith worked on a number of titles for First Comics, including American Flag, Grimjack, Nexus. For these comics, he and James Robinson produced The Golden Age and would later reteam on the creator-owned multi-Eisner Award-winning series, Leaving the Chance for Homage Comics. You forgot to mention The Spirit, IDW. We worked on The Spirit together, okay? Smith, aka Smitty, currently resides in Colorado. He continues to draw comics and covers for whatever strikes his creative fancy. And for more on his current endeavors, please visit paulmartinsmith.com. So, a little fun fact that you guys will enjoy. Paul Smith's web designer, the person that helped build Paul's website, is the same person that built my website. Okay, it's because of Paul's website. Here's Paul's work. Paul's website is because of his trust in the web designer that I decided to work with the same web designer. So the person that designed Paul's website also designed my website. I also hear that he also designed Arthur Adams' website as well as Mike Mignola's website. I don't know if Mike Mignola still has that website running, but we use the same web designer. So there you have it. That is the artist edition. Again, here's the inside back cover. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Please like, share, and make a comment down below. I'll respond to all comments over here. And here it is. Take a look at the spine. We have those characters right over here. Paul Smith's The Uncanny X-Men, IDW. There you have it. Look how cool that X-Men. So I hope you enjoyed this story. Please comment down below. If you want to hear more stories, please let me know. Here we go. So there you have it. That is my story with Paul Smith, as well as me showing you the Paul Smith Uncanny X-Men Artist Edition. Look how nice this is. So if you want to order one of these on Amazon, I have links below my video description. So check that out. Anything you order helps me help support me making more videos such as this one for you on my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Please share, make comments. Anytime you make a comment, I try to respond back to everyone. Check out my website, is waldenart.com. Over on my website, I have different images and gallery and stuff for sale, so check that out. And if you enjoy these videos, please think about supporting me over on my Patreon. On my Patreon is patreon.com/waldenart. Over there, there's different tiers that you can show support, as well as the mentorship tier. So check that out. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope seeing this was a nice and refreshing course. And Paul, if you're watching this video, Paul Smith, I'm talking to you directly. If you're watching this video is dedicated to you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye, guys. Take care.